this about me?
What is up, guys? 20-something days later, we're doing the voiceover. Well, I'm doing the voiceover for the part 2 of the RV6 flywheel. So much has happened. Again, life has just been crazy. The shop has been crazy. So many moving parts. Completely my fault. Frankie has had this video edited for like ever, and I've just been putting it off for one reason or another, because the shop and life has just been crazy. But here we go. Frankie, I love you. You still a bitch. You can censor that out.
What you got?
So RV6 supplies their own hardware. You cannot use OEM bolts. You gotta use the ones they supply. And also behind the and I just learned this. This is the first kit I installed. Behind the clutch fork, there's a bolt, or the pivot bolt they call it. You gotta add this spacer to the pivot bolt behind the clutch fork. So you'll see me do it later, but for right now I'm going in with the flywheel bolts and their longer flywheel bolts. I'm going in with the flywheel.
And then RV6 does a good job again of telling you everything and how to, pretty much the torque spec, the procedure, how to install stuff. They supply you with their flywheel bolts. You have to use a certain flywheel bolts. You can't use OEM ones. They say it in their instructions. Why did my video pause? And then here I am torquing everything. Frankie's helping me. Why does my video keep pausing? This is driving me insane. But just a little time lapse of me torquing everything. Frankie's helping me because the only thing holding this motor up is the jack stand.
Oh, you recording me? Difference. Type R clutch, 1.5T clutch. Springs help dampen vibration. Overall, you got more surface area on the clutch compared to this little thin thing. Both made by the same manufacturer, XZ, but that's the difference, as you can see. First try.
That's crazy. First try.
Tell me that's not crazy. First try.
I think you've done enough Honda clutches where it should be the
Really?
first try.
I feel like I've done more like Infinity 350Z.
Definitely more Honda clutches.
True.
That's why you always save your clutch alignment tool.
Because they did not provide one.
And I put this in backwards. It's supposed to be this way.
What? Don't let Raph put a clutch in for you.
Nope. I cannot use the 1.5T pressure plate bolts. I have to use the 2.0T pressure plate bolts. And they ain't supplied.
Do it again.
So this is why you always read the instructions, even if you're a master tech or whatever. So in this kit, they did not supply the. You cannot use the 1.5T pressure plate bolts. You have to use the 2.0T, which is a cord type R block. They did not supply the 2.0T pressure plate bolts. You can't use the 1.5T. RV6 was very red writing in their printed instruction guide, so I have to call Honda now, see if I can get him, or call Rob, see if he can get him, because he works at Honda, and then go from there. Am I right? They didn't jump on him.
So here I had already swapped over I removed the clutch fork because they have a spacer you're supposed to put in the back. It's a 21 mil 12 point, or you could use a 7/8 12 point. Be careful with the 7/8. It does have a lot more play, so you don't want to strip it out. But if you're in a tight situation and you can't get a 21 mil, that's what you want to use. Move the clutch fork. I cleaned it in our parts washer, and then new throwout bearing that came with the clutch kit. Lubed everything out. You want to put grease here. You want to put grease on the shaft. And you want to put grease where the throwout bearing slides on the actual clutch fork. But now I'm gonna go together with the clutch because the bolts finally came in for the pressure plate. And then we're gonna go back up with the transmission.
Like actual time working on the car, I did this fast. The car was kind of stuck on a lift because, again, I needed the pressure plate bolts from a Type R, and I couldn't reuse the ones I took off the 1.5T pressure plates, so we had to wait like 2 days to get the bolts. For some reason, I said I needed 6. They sent me 8. I don't know if the Type R one uses 8. I mean, the Type R flywheel uses 8, but which no, still doesn't make any sense, because even if the Type R flywheel used 8, it would be 8 holes, and I've done it twice already, and it's all 6. But here you go, I'm torquing everything. I do blue Loctite on both the pressure plate bolts and the flywheel bolts, and I torque everything to spec. Last thing I need is for a clutch, especially on a customer car. Even though, you know, I need my legs too, but especially on a customer car, last thing I need is a clutch to come through and break through the transmission tunnel and the transmission and end up taking somebody's legs off. Just put the blue Loctite, it doesn't hurt. Here I am going back in with the transmission. Ralph's nice 27-1 big brake kit that I also installed. Don't forget, hit me up for all your SI temp gen needs. We are PRL dealer, 27-1 dealer. Pretty much anything you could need for a temp gen we could get at retail price. These transmissions are fairly easy. They're actually really lightweight. I could pick this one up like nothing. Then again, it's a front wheel drive. Fun fact, these are LSD transmissions. You can see the hole, you see straight through it. All SIs come with LSDs. For some reason though, these transmissions can be a pain to get them to seat back in. But both of the ones I did back to back, I was sweating. And this video was a little bit hotter out because it was like a month ago. And the next video we dropped, it was colder because it was like getting closer to Christmas. But both times I was sweating because it was just kind of getting the angle right and like getting the transmission to sit. And as I've been coughing all day, and the more I'm speaking, the more my throat's starting to itch. Pause. Hey, yo. But yeah, it's just getting the transmissions on these, from what I've noticed, a little bit hard to get them to sit and mate with the block. Also, too, the way I do it is, as you saw, I don't support the motor from up top. I support it from the bottom. So you do have to remove that transmission mount that's up top. And you always want to take your time guiding the bolts in. I normally go like out, tighten one side, like snug one side a little bit, snug the other side, and go back and forth, back and forth. And then if I see like the top has more of an opening than the bottom, then I'll loosen it. And as you see in the video, kind of like try to push it in more by hand. The farther you can get it in by just pushing it by hand, the better. I kind of, my last resort is to use the bolts to kind of get everything to seat, because that's when like you crack transmission cases and housings, when you try to use the bolts instead of just getting everything to push in by hand. And don't be afraid to put a couple, like some grease on the guide pins for the transmission too. It doesn't hurt. But here you can literally see where everything tightened up, and kind of like the guide pins took the weight off the transmission jack, and I'm just going around and tightening all the bolts. Here I am putting the starter back in. These cars are very like easy to work on once you like get the subframe off, and I don't know, they're pretty like straightforward and bare bones. It could just be me, but I work on all different types of cars, and for me they're very straightforward. Like I have actual touch time, like you guys might see in the videos, like these cars sit a lot in the shop, or like they'll be on a lift for a while. I've gotten pretty fast, but the biggest issue is just getting parts. Actual touch time on the car, like I could get around to doing this job in like a day. Like the next one we did, it was more of it was this job. We did ARP head studs, 27-1 rear motor mount, and I forgot what else we did, but it was a couple things. But like the biggest thing for these cars is getting all the parts. And of course, shout out to Maddie. She does a great job of getting me all the parts that I need, because I'm very bougie and want parts a certain way, or I won't do aftermarket when it comes to certain things. So she hates me, but she always comes through and gets the parts that I need. Here, I don't know what it was. You would think right here that the bolt is cross-threaded or something, but it wasn't, because even off camera, like I took it out, put it back in, and the threads were fine, and took the starter out. It was just hard to get in. I don't know if it was just the angle or what of the starter. Here I am putting in the half shaft. The half shaft has 2 bolts up top that have kind of like a shaft to them, or a shank, and they only is idiot proof, so the 2 holes up top are elongated. The one at the bottom isn't. The one at the bottom is a regular bolt. The two up top is like elongated holes so it can fit the shaft. I mean, the bolts are kind of used like alignment for the shaft because obviously it's a shaft. You want it to be straight. As you can see me tightening everything by hand and then snugging everything up with a wrench or a ratchet. That's kind of how I just like to work. If I could pretty much bring a bolt all the way in by hand, then I will. And here I am putting the mount for the pitch mount. I've seen people drop the transmission. Some of them don't remove that. I do, just to kind of get it out of my way. And it's more of like, it's more of like a flat mounting surface too, because it gets in the way when you try to lower the transmission onto the jack. And I'm just putting the shield in for the clutch. As you can see, I'm starting everything by hand, and then I'll come back with either a power tool or a ratchet to snug everything up. Always start your bolts by hand. You'll save yourself a lot of time and agony, because you can easily cross-thread a bolt if you put a power tool to it. Especially my young mechanics, even though I'm young myself, but learn how to use hand tools first before you go and start zipping stuff on and off with power tools. You will thank yourself later. Frankie used to argue with me when he used to help me at the shop and be like, why are you saying use hand tools? And then it took him a couple months to realize why I said it. You got to know the feel for stuff and how tight to tighten stuff. Kind of like your elbow becomes like your own torque wrench, depending after a while, because you know how tight to tighten stuff. Oh, and here I'm just putting the shifter. I have drawn a blank. The shifter cables bracket back on. I don't try to waste my time taking those stupid C-clips off because they're always either like corroded on or just a pain to get off. So I just take the whole bracket off. And then as you can see here, I'm kind of just putting the charge harness back on, and you can see the acuity short throw. You can see the acuity bushings in there too. I probably already set them in for the shifter cables. But I'm just tightening and connecting all the harness that goes on the transmission and the charge harness cables that goes on the transmission and goes around the back of the motor. Don't mind my cough. Frankie got me sick. He didn't, but it's still his fault. Here I am putting the slave back in. Even though I did the Rpmautoct Master on these, whenever I do these, I put the Rpmautoct Master on it because so you don't get the gear lockout at high RPMs. Even though I gotta rebleed the system because I'm doing with the Rpmautoct Master, it comes with a steel braided line, so you have to open up the system. I just unbolt the slave and the lines and get it out the way for the time being, just so I don't have to make a mess, because that's kind of like the last thing I do. And here I'm just bolting it back up and putting the hard line and everything back in. You can see the 212s to tighten it down. I always start them by hand, like I always say. Here I am putting in the elbow, the PRL elbow for the charge. I'm scratching my hair, but I'm putting the elbow in that connects to the throttle body for the charge pipe that goes straight down. I like PRL's charge pipe because it breaks up into like sections, because like I did like a map performance ones that you guys will see in the next video, and I wasn't a fan of it because it was like one whole piece, and I like kind of like struggled to like get it out of there. Where the PRL one, because it has a 9-degree silicone hose, I can just undo it there, undo the throttle body, and it's just a straight shot. It's a lot easier to put it in. And no, I'm not saying that because I'm biased and I like PRL products and I swear by PRL. It's just, it's easier on the mechanics side of stuff. But PRL is a great company. And then here I'm putting the bracket. That's another thing too. They have a bracket. Map Performance ones didn't have a bracket. Does it make a difference? Don't know. Is it like better for structural integrity? Yes. Overall, it's just more aesthetically pleasing because it has the bracket and it has PRL kind of cut out So it just looks better, in my opinion. Here I am connecting all the sensors on the charge pipe, which I think one is the boost sensor and the other one is the intake air temp sensor. And then I'm tightening down. Again, hand tools are the way to go. Tightening down the the bracket. I think here I'm loosening the battery. I can't really see what it is that I'm doing. Oh no, I'm tightening the hose clamp, the 9-degree silicone hose, PRL hose. Same thing with here. I'm tightening at the throttle body, the hose clamp. Forgot to say clamp at the end. And then I'm tightening the other hose clamp at the bottom, where it goes, the silicone hose that goes to the intercooler. This is where I'm releasing all the coolant. I kind of forgot why I'm releasing the coolant. Oh yeah, because we did the big turbo. That's bad. That's how long ago we did this video, and I haven't done the voiceover for it. I'm like, why am I draining the coolant? It's because we did the RV6 ball bearing big turbo. I'm gonna tell you something. That turbo sounds nice. Like it sounds like that TikTok. That's exactly what it sounds like. Another thing about these cars, you see how I'm draining the coolant right now, and I'm undoing the downpipe. And real quick on the downpipe, you see those brackets? If you install an aftermarket downpipe, for the love of God, please put those brackets on. But when you drain the coolant on these, and I know it's on the next scene already, and Frankie's gonna hate me, but when you drain the coolant on these and then you undo the turbo coolant feed line, even if the coolant is draining out the radiator, you're gonna get showered again. Thank me later. Here I am undoing the charge pipe for the turbo inlet. Again, this was a lot easier because it's not stock parts. Like he has a PRL turbo inlet. As you can see, again, it breaks up into 3. It's just right here is just a 9-degree elbow and the connection to the actual turbo. I'm undoing the vacuum lines to the recirculating valve, not blow off valve, and I'm undoing the actual 12 mil bolts for that bolt to the actual turbo on the inlet side. These are always a pain. I have a lot of muscle memory when it comes to these, so I can kind of like feel around and know where it's at. I'm undoing the 10 for the coolant hose, or the coolant like distribution thing, because I think goes to like 3 different sections. And here I am removing the inlet, the same inlet I installed like a couple months ago. Here I am just removing more stuff out of the way. You know, I tend to work of like try to take off as least as possible and kind of remove things out of my way as I go. And now I'm just getting ready to undo the heat shield. Those are the 2 10s you gotta do to remove that coolant hose line that goes across. And I'm just undoing the heat shield now. You gotta undo the heat shield to get to the turbo / manifold. And I'm not gonna spoil it. I'll say what happened to this turbo later when the time comes. But Ralph, I don't know how you broke it, but you broke it. I guess if there's a will, there's a way. I thought I was Crash Bandicoot and I was the one. So like here I am kind of just testing to like see if because the car wouldn't build any boost. So I was testing to see like, did the wastegate go bad? What happened? Why isn't this building boost? This is before like I took the turbo out or like really like dove into it. And then now I'm working on the other heat shield. He has, again, this car was full bolt on. We did full bolt on before he did all this. But here I'm doing the other heat shield for his downpipe. Behind the heat shield, he has a PRL high flow downpipe. And now I'm just undoing the turbo manifold bolts, the ones that normally snap on you. Again, these weren't going to snap on me because I already been in there, did that. And normally on these, when I do them the first time, I try not to use the same hardware because so many of them have snapped on me and I've had to drill them out or re-tap them. That is just really, really like annoying. So I try not to use the hardware. Like I have studs on the side and I have bolts on the side for this exact reason. And then the ones up top are real easy to get. The ones down below that you see me kind of like not struggling, but you can't really see in the camera because it's down below. They're a bit more of a pain to get to. Frankie changed the view, or I think I changed the view. I think it was just me recording because Frankie was not here. But here you can see good old PRL stamped right on that downpipe. Downpipes has gotten crazy expensive too now. But then again, they're all high flow catted. The catless ones are kind of like a thing of the past because of EPA. Don't come after me. But here I am loosening the last at 14, if I remember correctly. For they're all 14 mils, 2 studs, 2 bolts. And if you're debating on going catless or catted, the biggest difference is like a 5 horsepower difference at most. Most people see it like a 2. The only thing with catted and catless is sound. So like, I don't know whose middle finger that was, but obviously with catted, you're not gonna get that much. You're gonna get a lot more sound over stock, but it's not gonna be as loud as a catless one. Personally, I had a catless one. If I could do it again, I go catted, because between the fumes and just the raspiness, I would go catted. Here I'm just undoing the turbo more. The turbo manifold has 4 14 mil bolts up top, and then it has a bracket under that you saw me reach for. That was a 14 that I have to undo. It's kind of like another bracket for the turbo to kind of support the turbo that bolts to the block. So you have the 414 up top that you see me right now with the power tool, and then you got the one under that is more like a bracket that just helps support the turbo. Such a baby turbo. I don't know why I need all that support. Here I'm just undoing again the manifold bolts. The manifold, as you can see, I have the 1/4 inch. This is where I always break either my 1/4 inch or a socket, because that one's always a pain to get to. It's on the left hand side or passenger side, depends how you look at it. But you need a 1/4 inch 14. A regular 3/8 14 will not fit, because I think the oil feed line gets in the way. So I normally that's why I have that extendo. I call it extendo, but it's an extended 1/4 inch snap-on makes that you can get, and pretty much is a 1/4 inch with a lot longer handle on it, so you could kind of get more of a leverage. But I use that to break it loose. I mean, I guess you could also use a 3/8 ratchet with a 1/4 inch adapter on it, from 3/8 to 1/4 inch. And now I'm undoing the coolant line. Some people unbolt the turbo return. I don't. The turbo return goes from a hard line at the bottom to a rubber hose. It's clamped to the rubber hose.
So let me show you something. Fun fact about these cars: even if you drain the radiator from the petcock at the bottom, right? It is still, let me set up the camera. When you undo the coolant line for the turbo, it's still gonna piss a shit ton of coolant out. So that's why I put this tray under that you guys saw. But this line, make sure you can see it in the camera. You can't see it in the camera. Let me see if I can do it back. Hold on now. So if you look, this line to the turbo, even when you undo it, it still pisses, even though I drain the radiator. So I always undo it there, and then same thing with this return line for the turbo right here. I always undo that and just move it out the way. But now the turbo is pretty much ready to come out. I'm gonna drop the car, lower the car, and take the turbo out. Which Ralph, I don't know how the fuck you did this damage to this turbo, but you did it. So here are both turbos side by side. Ralph, I don't know how you did it, but you did it. Impeller wheel is the turbo seized. It's not moving at all. Obviously, I started kind of unpackaging everything. They do supply you with a oil feed line adapter kit. They also supply you with the coolant lines, which is pretty self-explanatory. Of course, RV6 is always great with directions. They tell you everything, where it goes, and even how many foot-pounds to tighten it to. Of course, you get all the stickers. You get new gaskets for the downpipe and the manifold. As you can see, it's very self-explanatory. You do have to switch over the wastegate. When you switch over the wastegate, I'll say it here, but if you read the instructions, it says it too. Do not loosen the 10 mil bolt. I think it's a 10 mil for the actuator. You just undo the clip, undo these 4 bolts, and literally transfer it, and you'll be straight.
So I just loaded the tune. Parametric just sent me the tune, but I gotta go drive it and get all these lights to clear out. And then after that, I just gotta data log a 3rd gear pull and send it back to him, and he's gonna revise the tune for us. Don't mind me, I'm sick and I'm still working. So now I'm pretty much sending the data logs. I got 2 for the tuner. He wanted me to do full throttle 3rd gear pulls, made 26 pounds of boost. I was watching the AFRs, went down to like 9. Running on the richer side, but it's better to run rich than lean. And the car, I gotta figure out why it's lighting up like a Christmas tree, because it went away and then it came back. But right now I'm just sending him the tunes back. I mean the data log back, so he can adjust the tune and send it back to me. But the car does feel good. It pulls very hard. The turbo flutters, it spools. Very impressive.